What's going on? Big A, the Manky Geek, coming at you with another video. And this time I was requested to speak about The Mandalorian, which is a show on Disney Plus, which started in 2019, late 2019, before The Rise of Skywalker came out. And I had to see it because I live in the UK. Disney Plus wasn't around then. We actually didn't get Disney Plus until March, I think 23rd of 2020. So I had to see it via alternative means. And I enjoyed the show a lot. I feel like the show is like the savior of Star Wars because you had The Last Jedi come out and it kind of split the fan base in two. For me, The Last Jedi, I enjoyed seeing it when it first came out because it had so many surprises in there. And then as time went on, for me, it kind of, those surprises didn't mean anything. It was just like, well, do they really matter? So I can understand as to why people didn't like it, and I can understand as to why some people do like it. But I don't really have an opinion on it. I'm like kind of in the middle. But this show, The Mandalorian, it brought two sides of a war together. So you've got your Last Jedi lovers and your Last Jedi haters, and they're kind of both in agreement that this show is wicked and it's amazing. The reason why it's such a good show for me is just the simplicity of it. It is like, you know, a lone cowboy essentially on a journey, doing simple things, doing simple tasks for people, and then the story progressing, and the whole thing with like, well, Grogu, Baby Yoda and stuff like that. It's just so well done. And the technology involved with it as well, like things like the volume. I didn't even know they were using the volume to start off with at first. I was like, this has some of the best rotoscoping and chroma key that I've ever seen in my entire life. And then later on, I find out that the entire thing is filmed in a massive room with HD screens all over it, and it's 360 degrees, and it's insane. But it just brings together like so much things, so many things even from around Star Wars universe. Like, for example, we got Bo-Katan. Fennec Shand is going to be in the Bad Batch. So we're getting things from like Clone Wars, Bad Batch, original trilogy stuff, all just kind of like coming into the Mandalorian. And that's what makes it so good, because it definitely respects what came before, but it's definitely trying to do new things as well. And I think that's probably one of like the strongest points of the show. I'm trying to think as to like what my favorite episode has been so far, but I think my favorite episode of season 1 is probably gonna have to be, I've seen season 1 recently again, because I've watched season 1 like about 5 times. So twice when it was originally airing, I'd watch every episode, and also I watched it again when it came to the UK, and then I watched it again also when it came to season 2, just before season 2. I just watched it again then, and then I've also watched it again recently. I've probably got to say the best episode for me is probably going to be, I think, the last one, just because it was kind of the whole thing with taking off the mask and all that, and you know, Moff Gideon coming down, and just the reveal of the Darksaber and what that meant. Like, I'm a Clone Wars guy. I watched all of like Clone Wars and Rebels as well. So as soon as that thing showed up, I was like, oh my gosh. So that's probably my favorite episode of season 1. Season 2, I think it might be the Ahsoka Tano episode, just because Rosario Dawson did a great job. She looks 100% like the character. I know her Leku or tendrils weren't as long as they should have been, but it was absolutely phenomenal seeing that character, like seeing her play that character who's only been animated. It seemed like there was no difference between the animated version and Rosario Dawson's version. It just seemed like one, and it was just so good to see all that kind of stuff. And I think the show respects like Star Wars as a whole, and it feels fresh even though it's set in an older time period, because it's set before obviously the new movies. So, but I don't know, it's like, it's just good. It's just good. It's just all around good. Now, do I think they can keep it up? Well, that's going to be interesting, because if you've seen the end of season 2 and you know how it ends, that is a very important element of the show that has now gone and has disappeared. So will people carry on watching? I personally can't wait to see what happens next, because I feel like it's all going to be about the Darksaber and Mandalore, and who ends up becoming the ruler of Mandalore, and kind of like the battle for the Darksaber. Will there be various tribes or groups of Mandalorians all fighting for that power to reclaim Mandalore? But I think first probably they're going to retake Mandalore before there will be a battle for the Darksaber, I reckon. So that'll be interesting to see as well. But it's kind of onwards and upwards for, well, the Star Wars TV shows at least, because Disney Plus are giving us 10 other ones, I think it was, in total that they've given to us. So it's gonna be a busy few years, especially TV wise. Maybe this is the way it needs to be for the next, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 years before we get a new trilogy, a very well thought out trilogy, because I do think certain bits of the sequel trilogy were not as well thought out as I'd like things that were set up never really were finished. Like, I was one of the people that thought The Force Awakens was Finn's story, so I did actually think he was Force sensitive for ages, since I first saw the film. But enough people thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy. I was like, maybe I'm making it up. But then it's revealed that I wasn't making it up, and I was right in thinking what I was thinking, because they were dropping subtle hints from the beginning there. But yes, there's so much Star Wars coming that I can see why Disney. I just hope it doesn't like rinse the franchise, because I don't want every single show to kind of be the same formula. I don't want everything to kind of like be like, if one's a one-off, like if the Obi-Wan's a one-off, which I hear it is, great. You know what I mean? If they only do a few seasons of Cassian Andor, great. I just hope they don't go, oh, let's take the Mandalorian and apply it to all these other things, because that would be lazy. That's just cut and paste, and I don't want to see any cut and paste. But I also think the Mandalorian like gave us a lot of things that other things don't know how to give us. So for example, in the final episode of season 2, there's a scene where you've got 4 female characters running around in a light cruiser, kicking ass all over the place. And it was so good, it was more entertaining than that scene in The Rise of Skywalker when Finn, Poe and Chewie are... Actually, I think it's just Finn and Poe. I've only seen the film, I think, 3 times in total. The last time was sometime last year, I think June. But when they're running around the Star Destroyer shooting all those stormtroopers, it's the most unengaging bit of the film for me, or one of the most unengaging bits, because it's not interesting. It's not an interesting battle. Whereas these 4 characters, so Bo-Katan, Cara Dune, Fennec Shand, and I forget the other Mandalorian chick's name, but they're all running around a light cruiser and just shooting and killing all these stormtroopers, but it's in interesting ways. Like the actual scene and what's happening and how it's happening, it's all interesting. It's not just boring run around pew pew pew. So it's stuff like that to give it strong female characters as well, which is great, but they never feel like they're just cookie cutter and they have no depth for them. They've all got backstories, or most of them seem to have backstories of some sort that will be explored, because there's definitely way more depth to those characters than in some things where they just go, oh, let's just do a strong female character, which is often comes across as corny. But yeah, love Mando, think it's great. Star Wars is still in a shaky ground at the moment, because we've got stuff like the High Republic, which some fans aren't responding to very well. Me myself, I don't care about the High Republic. Who knows, elements of it may become important in the future, but to be honest, I think you should kind of leave that as it is, because it is just, not everyone who reads the books, not everyone who watches the films will read these books, and they're probably not going to mean a lot in the long run. But all the best to them. I hope they do well and make their money and everything. But I'm in that Mando period. That's the most interesting period for me, the transition between the Empire ending and, you know, the New Republic establishing order, and then I guess kind of just before the fall of that as to like what goes on, because the Outer Rim's the Outer Rim. The Outer Rim is still wild, so that's why I'm glad like all these stories take place in the Outer Rim, because that's like the old West and everything. But yeah, let me know what you thought of The Mandalorian, whether you thought it's a good show, whether it can continue going for, what, 5 seasons I think they're probably planning. And this is where you'd like to see it go next, and let me know what you think about the other Star Wars shows as well. So yeah, that was my video on The Mandalorian. Like, comment, do all the things, and I'll see you on the next one.